And joining me now live in studio, Stephen Rice, former NHLer, the Scores hockey analyst. And Steve, watching a lot of hockey games tonight in the NHL, specifically the matchup between Toronto and the Atlanta Thrashers. Kurt Fraser's club, the worst in the NHL, and I know you've got an example right off the hop why they are so bad defensively.
Yeah, defensively they're struggling, and I've got a couple of reasons why right here. Down low, they're working down low with the puck. Fitzgerald, Antropov, and Hoagland are working hard. You know, they're cycling the puck. They're not in really bad position right here. Tamer's in a good spot. Look at him standing right there with the X. He reaches for a loose puck, gives up a great scoring opportunity to Hoagland right there. But Toronto's doing the same thing. Watch Cabriolet here on the power play. He's penalty killing here. There's a shot from the point. Look at his stick up at the rafters. He goes behind the net. Stick up there. Look at it. Right at the rafters again. Giving up a good scoring opportunity right in front of the net. Again, also for the Leafs on a neutral zone turnover. Watch Antropov right here. He's got a stick on the guy going to the net. And Heatley makes a great pass right here to Bartetchko. Takes a shot on net. The defenseman got a shift there. Take that 2-on-2. Antropov's got to move his feet. He took a penalty. Cost the Leafs a goal. And some people are going to hate me for this, but one of the most skilled players, I think, to ever wear a Leaf jersey, Alexander McGinley. And that's just one player right there. I'm not saying he's the best, but he's definitely, I would say, the most skilled player to ever wear a Leaf jersey.
The most of all time in their 86-year history right now.
I would say, hands down, the most skilled player.
Well, he can make some great moves, as we saw right there, although he didn't put the puck into the net. McGinley, a Russian, of course. We saw what he could do at the '89 World Junior Hockey Championships a few years ago. We saw what Ilya Kovalchuk could do in the Worlds, and then in the NHL last year, a healthy scratch before the game. He was told 15 minutes before the Star-Spangled Banner, no Canada. Is that the right way to handle the youngster, and is he to blame for the woes of Atlanta?
I think that's very harsh. I think Fraser should take it upon the players. He should talk to McEachern. He should talk to Odgers. Get them to pull him aside and say, listen, you're helping us offensively. You got to help us defensively. You're minus 13. Season's just getting going here. We need more from you defensively. You're a liability every time you're out on the ice. We can't have that, but we still need you offensively. But you got to work better defensively as a team. Be part of the team.
We talked earlier about the inevitable comparisons between Curtis Joseph and Eddie Belfour, especially when Joseph leaves and Belfour fills the void between the pipes. Or is he filling the void? Because right now we saw in that first goal by Atlanta to get them on the board, there's a shot that in Belfour's prime, and when he was with Chicago and his brief stay in San Jose or in Dallas, he stops that shot.
Well, some goalies get better with age. It's going to be nice to see what happens over the next couple months in Toronto. I think Belfour still has it in him. He has the desire. It's going to depend on, the Leafs have to help him out defensively. If they help him out defensively,
but he'll be more confident. But he's also going to have to make the point-blank shots himself. Like, there's an opportunity that 9 times out of 10, the Eddie the Eagle that we've known stops that puck, but so far this year, he has been just average, wouldn't you think?
Well, when the Boo Birds are singing, too, there's always the Boo Birds, and especially in Toronto. Toronto's a tough place to play in. They want to win every night. Okay.
So you're defending him at the beginning of the year?
I think he'll be fine. Eddie's a great goalie. He'll be fine.
All right, more from Stephen Rice in just a second. In the meantime, other action tonight, the Anaheim Mighty Ducks on the road, taking on the Boston Bruins. And what is wrong with Paul Kariya? Not just this year, but last year. $10 million a year. We expect more from this Canadian Olympian this year. 4 goals, 7 points in 10 games, -6 on this Halloween night. And who would be involved in some scariness in the early going? Well, right here, Ivan Hummel with a great opportunity to Marty McInnes. He is denied. Then Hummel with a chance. He is denied. The rebound to Joseph Stumple. What a nice save there by Jean-Sébastien Giguère as they battle against Steve Shields. Shields taking on his former club. Ducks on the power play off the draw. O'Sullivan is stopped. And there's Paul Kariya. He must have heard about me in the pregame meeting. His 5th of the year. 1-0 Anaheim. 23 seconds later, Michael Grosek, the former Buffalo Sabre, over to Hummel. Back to Stumple. Tic-tac-toe. His 4th of the year. And the Bruins, who are unbeaten in 8, make it a 1-1 game. Then Shields misplays the puck behind the net. Paul Kariya out in front to Matt Cullen. No doubt about this one. The yawning cage to make it a 2-1 hockey game. Now later in the period, about 5 minutes to go, Ruchin to Kariya on the backhand and pound for pound and just really skill for skill. All the skilled players in the NHL, nobody is better on the backhand than that guy. As a youngster growing up in North Vancouver, 500 backhands a day in the driveway into his net. And when you do that, the success shows. So Korea's got 2, 6 on the year. 3-1 is the score right now. Boston and Anaheim, they're now into the 3rd period of play. In other action, we've got the, Jeremy Roenick with the new do. Coyotes on the road taking on the Flyers. And even Bobby Clark laughs about that one. You can see the dentures, and they are looking good. Thank God for that poly grip. Early on, Darren Quint just shovels it towards the net. Chris Therien in trouble. It goes off him, off Doan. He gets the goal. It's a 2-1 game. John LeClair then feeds Justin Williams. Brian Boucher, the former Flyer, with the save. Kim Johnson later in the period, puck's back at the point. He lets it go. Screen in front of the net. There goes a water bottle. His first of the year. Game tied at 2. Brian Boucher saw it, but a little too late. Then Eric Weinrich over to Michael Handzus, and he is loving life in Philadelphia. His 6th of the year already. Wow, it's now a 3-2 hockey game in this one. They're into the second intermission right now. So Handzus has a 2-point night. Kim Johnson has a 3-point night. Eric Desjardins has scored his first of the year. You see the other assists in that hockey game. Branko Radivojevic has scored for the Coyotes. So it's 3-2 after 40 minutes of play at the FU Center. And the Blackhawks are in action tonight, taking on the LA Kings. No score in the first period of play. The injury situation for LA is this. Adam Deadmarsh is out of the lineup tonight, so he is banged up. But Ziggy Palffy is now back into the lineup. We all know the Jason Allison situation. So troubles for Andy Murray and company as far as the injuries are concerned. Although to start the year, they're playing some pretty good hockey, 3 games above 500.
Molson Hockey Update brought to you by the Molson Canadian Ultimate Road Trip. Must be legal drinking age, no purchase necessary.
All right, time for a break here on the program. When we come back, we'll head to Vancouver and check in live with James Cybulski. The Canucks in action tonight, taking on the Colorado Avalanche. And the Canucks need to get things going at home this year. Only 1 win so far on home ice. Back in a flash.
This program on The Score is brought to you by the new Kia Sorento SUV. How far will you go?
Last night, MJ and company in action last night, losing to the Raptors in the first quarter. Kwame Brown rejecting Tony Delk right there with a nice defensive play in the early going. And then Jordan to Stackhouse. Nice pass to Christian Laettner. He finishes nicely off the glass and in. It was the Wiz up by 3 after 1. Second quarter, Tony Delk from beyond the arc. Nothing but net. Later in the second quarter, Jordan steals the inbound, the pump fake. He hits. He had 14 in the first half. 58-40 for the Wiz at the break. Remember last year, Jordan healthy, they were 26 and 21 before he had some knee problems. Jazz taking on the Hawks, Karl Malone and company. Pumped up about this year. Stockton to Malone. Nothing's changed, nothing but net. And the Jazz are in the lead. Later on, Utah turnover. Robinson, the outlift to Theo Ratliff, two-handed flush. 29-23 Atlanta after 1. Later on, the little alley-oop here, Terry to Robinson, and it was 68-55 at that point in the game. Check the ticker for the latest. Now, from the NBA, back to the NHL we go. It was on February the 1st, 1993, that Gary Bettman was hired as commissioner of the NHL. So this year, it'll be 10 years on the job. Most would agree that the league is in better shape now since Gary Bettman took over the league. Now, our own Elliotte Friedman sat down with the Long Island native. They talked about a number of things concerning the league right now, including labor, attendance, and, of course, obstruction.
Gary Bettman has reason to smile right now. For a little while, anyway, labor has ceased to be the sport's major public issue. Instead, it's the league's crackdown on obstruction and the addition of the hurry-up face-off. The response so far has been near unanimous praise.
It's only going to be praised for as long as we ensure that it stays in place, which we're committed to doing, and I believe we will be able to do. The response to the adjustments we've made to the game has been overwhelmingly positive, but a lot of hard work went into it. I mean, Coley Campbell and Jim Gregory and Mike Murphy and Andy Van Hellemond spent over a year dealing with the coaches and the managers and players, focusing on what the issue was, defining it, and how to adjust to it. So I'm not surprised, but I am pleased.
One of the few complainers so far has been an old nemesis of yours, Brett Hull, whom you fined before for comments he's made about officiating.
Actually, my reaction isn't important. Mario Lemieux said, I believe, quoting him accurately, Brett was complaining when there was obstruction, and now he's complaining that they're calling penalties to get rid of it. You can't have it both ways.
You mentioned Mario Lemieux, and the other day he said in a conference call that the next issue the league should tackle is the size of goaltender equipment. Is there a plan to review that issue?
Well, you know, we hear a lot of discussion about goaltender equipment, about the size of the nets, which I'm not looking to change. Under Dave Dryden's supervision, we focused on the equipment worn by goaltenders, the pads, and we measure them, and we now hold them in strict compliance with the rules. But there is an issue as well about the safety of goaltenders and getting injured because they're facing pucks at 100 miles an hour. We'll look at it with Dave again, but we have addressed it once, and I'm not sure how much smaller you can make the goaltender equipment without jeopardizing their well-being.
One interesting argument I heard was that you could make a certain determination depending on each goaltender's height, that the pads can't go up a certain point or the chest protector has to be a certain size. What about trying something like that?
I'm not sure how fair that is, because if you're 6'2", should you have not only a height advantage but an equipment advantage relative to coverage area over a 5'7" or 5'8" goaltender, which I would be sympathetic to.
I can certainly understand your sympathies on that point. I think one of the biggest concerns there might be so far this year is attendance in places like Buffalo, Chicago, Nashville, Atlanta. Carolina's getting very low crowds, even though they went to the Stanley Cup Final last year.
Our attendance is within 200 people a game as where it was last year. That I don't define as an attendance problem. And in fact, if you took Buffalo out of the mix, which is a whole different issue, we're flatter up. And so what happens is people focus on the places that are down. Okay, we have 14 teams that are actually up in attendance at this point and 11 that are down. That's about the mix we normally see this time of year. And so people say, well, this one's down, that's terrible. But they're not looking at Tampa Bay, for example, which is up. They're not looking at Anaheim, which is up. And so there are, as I said, more places are up than are down, and we're holding about even with last year. And considering we're coming off our 5th year of a row in record attendance, I'm not really concerned about attendance, and nobody should be.
Even though you hate talking about it, you can't escape the labor issue. A year ago, Mike Barnett did an interview where he talked about the owners opening up their books to the players to increase the trust level between the two sides. Has that happened?
Well, the answer to your question is the union, I believe, is fully informed as to the state of the game, both from an economic and otherwise business standpoint.
Is there a trust between the two sides?
There's no reason not to be, at least the union trusting us. I mean, in terms of owners, there are 2/3 to 3/4 of our owners are new since I've been commissioner. I'm new in the last 10 years. There are over 100 new jobs, and player salaries have increased either 3- or 4-fold. Why should there be any issue with trust? It's been very good for the players, and that's fine. But now we need to adjust it.
Do you trust the union leadership?
I trust the union leadership to address the issues long term, and I trust the union leadership to be candid with us, as I expect they will be. And as a result, I am optimistic that at the right time, from their standpoint, but hopefully not too late, the union will come forward and begin to address in a constructive fashion our issues.
You have defended the union's right not to open up the CBA, saying that that is something they can choose to do under the current deal. But do you think that'll change, or are we going to go right down to September 15th, 2004?
I have no idea. And I defend the union in that regard, and I talk about trust. I'm not looking to pick a fight with them. You know, Bob and I have a very cordial professional relationship. We don't see eye to eye on every issue, but that's okay. That's part of what we each do. We're not the problem. The issue is going to be whether or not the union institutionally is prepared to address the problems in a cooperative, constructive way. If the answer is yes, this will go smoothly.
You look at baseball and you say, Bud Selig and Donald Fehr hate each other. but still they found a way to get a deal done so that no games were lost. I think the question a lot of people are wondering is, if the sport of baseball can do that, why can't hockey?
Well, because your premise as it relates to us is a little faulty. Okay. I can get a deal done in 30 seconds. It's not going to be a deal that addresses the problems. What we have to do is fix the problems so that we have 30 healthy franchises, all of which are competitive. We owe that to our fans, all where they're currently located. That's our goal. And so it's not about getting a deal done, it's about getting the right deal done.
The baseball owners wanted a salary cap. They didn't get it, and they settled for a luxury tax for the good of the game. Can the same thing happen in hockey? Maybe not get the cap, but settle for a tax.
I'm not going to negotiate publicly, but I will tell you that from our standpoint and with our issues, the baseball deal wouldn't work for us.
Can you explain why?
I don't think that the issues that we have are adequately addressed by what they have in their collective bargaining agreement. It may work for them. I'm not passing judgment on that. It doesn't address our needs. My expectation is that we're going to get the 30 teams through the next season and the season after, even though for some it may be a bit of a struggle. And then beyond that, we will, at some point, have a system that enables them to be stable and competitive.
And joining us now in studio here on Score Now is Elliotte Friedman. As always, Elliotte, enjoy those candid one-on-one interviews that you do with the commissioner. Let's talk specifically about this man, Gary Bettman, right now, because I've got a few things I want to talk about. But
sure.
Is it fair to say that the future of at least 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 Canadian franchises in the next 2 or 3 years, and what he ends up getting done when a deal finally gets struck, is in the hands of that man right there, as far as Calgary, Edmonton, Ottawa, maybe Vancouver as well?
Yeah, I certainly think so. I don't think you can underestimate that point. And if there's one thing I think about Gary Bettman is that in Canada, he gets kind of a raw deal in terms of what he has done to try and make the Canadian teams more successful. You know, the Canadian Assistance Plan came under him. He tried to help Rod Brydon get the tax deal done that was broken up by the outrage of the Canadian public. But, you know, Gary Bettman, I think, has generally done a pretty good job for the Canadian hockey teams, but their long-term future, and we're talking post-2004 here, definitely is up to him and Bob Goodenow, the 2 most powerful men in the sport.
Well, he wouldn't say it right there, not that he would. If he did, that would have been great. We could have solved the cap tax issue right there. But is there any way that the owners and Gary Bettman will agree to any type of cost certainty that does not include a tax or a cap? I mean, the other leagues in the States do. I don't understand how he could go through 2004, 2005, when a deal is eventually done, and not have either an NFL or an NBA type tax or cap.
Well, it's interesting because you heard him say about Major League Baseball about would he be able to accept a luxury tax with no salary cap, and he basically said no. He didn't come right out and say it, no, but you can read between the lines, and so can everybody else. It's obvious that he is going to go through for some sort of harder cap, and the one thing everybody has to realize here, and I'm sure Bob Goodenow understands this, and I don't really blame him for not reopening up the deal. On average, it's a pretty good one for the players, and if I was in his shoes, I don't know if I would either. The thing is that just because there's a cap doesn't mean you can't make money. There are still people making obscene contracts. You know, Michael Jordan, his height, was making $33 million a year. Brett Favre was making $10 million a year. And as long as the cap is structured so that people can still make significant money, there are exceptions, then certainly I don't understand why hockey can't have one either.
Elliotte Friedman, thanks very much for this, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Take care, Steve. See you later.
All right, some other news and notes from around the NHL. A minor trade today involving Montreal as they reacquire Sylvain Blouin from the Minnesota Wild for a draft pick, a 7th-round pick in 2003. Sylvain Blouin, back in 1998-99, played just 5 games for the Habs, just a cup of coffee, did not pick up a point. Really, this is depth for minor league material for the Canadiens organization. Some other news and notes, some good news for Henrik Zetterberg. His groin injury is now healed, and he will return to the lineup for the Red Wings on Saturday night. The Ottawa Senators, however, getting some bad news. Martin Havlat, who did not play last night against Pittsburgh, is going to be out for about 1 to 2 weeks with his groin injury. That's why Brad Smith has been called up from the minors. And the Dallas Stars now have another new-look second line. We know about their number 1 line and how well that is played so far. But Jason Arnott is now back. He played last night. Pierre Turgeon, who at times this year had played just 7 or 10 minutes at center on the third line, will be on the second line left wing position. And that's not a bad second line because they need Arnott, Turgeon, and Mr. Mike Modano to get tons of ice time. All right, just moments ago, Anaheim taking on Boston. Paul Kariya getting some wood on that one for the captain. His third of the night. Give him now 7 on the year, right? He went into action tonight with 4, 3 tonight, 7 on the year. Anaheim beats Boston 4-1. Boston's 8-game unbeaten streak is now snapped.
Molson Hockey Update brought to you by the Molson Canadian Ultimate Road Trip. Must be legal drinking age, no purchase necessary.
All right, we've got to take a short break here on Score Now. When we come back, James Cybulski joins me live from Vancouver to set up tonight's game between the Avalanche and the Vancouver Canucks. Vancouver's off to a so-so start, but they have to play a lot better on home ice. We're back in a flash.